Because as we've discussed before, the Constitution, when it was being written, that there was a lot of discussions about a lot of different things, and Article 2 was one of the ones that was the most heavily debated, because you had the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists, you had Loyalists, where you had a lot of discussions where people wanted to create the head of our new nation, but wanted to avoid creating a situation where you have essentially a softened version of a monarchy, something similar to what basically you could argue now with the UK or other places where you still have a monarchy, but now they have their own legislative branches there, their own legislative arm in Parliament, but they wanted to create something where you had a leader of the country, but wasn't somebody, as Rob said, that had plenary authority, that couldn't do whatever they wanted, that had certain restrictions, and that was something that was very heavily debated upon, and that also you have to take a look at where we came from with this, where the Constitution was written after we had already passed and previously tried the Articles of Confederation, and the of Confederation were very, very soft. They had a very weak central government. And we learned from the Articles of Confederation that really, as a new country, we couldn't operate that way. We didn't have the authority to tax. We didn't have the authority to do certain things. That the federal government
Couldn't
had a very weak president, and that they decided that, okay, we've learned from that. We've learned from our prior mistakes. We want to create something that has a stronger central government, has a stronger presidency, but yet still had limits upon them where they couldn't be essentially a soft monarch.
right. I mean, we went from the Articles of Confederation, which were so watered down, so vague, and left nothing to the federal government to do. We couldn't even raise a standing army if we needed to. We couldn't. It just was. It fell apart upon itself. It was like just a deck of cards that fell in on itself. But even though everyone recognized the Articles of Confederation didn't work well, couldn't work well, the structure was terrible, whatever, and they came together for this constitutional convention, they were still mindful that they did not want to have this dictator or a king or a sovereign or whatever. They fought against a bloody revolution to make sure that didn't happen. And something as simple, think about this, something as simple as Article 3 of Section 2. They talk about the president shall inform Congress with the State of the Union. And you think, well, what's so big of a deal about that? Think about the mindset from where they were in 1787 when they were putting this together. They had just won their independence, and they were a novelty on the world stage. Every other major power was a monarchy, and the king or the queen, depending on where it was, had carte blanche to do whatever they wanted, period, done, over with, hard stop, period, mic drop, bang. Here, think about this. They're telling the executive, the president of the United States, you have to. It isn't may, or maybe you ought to think about. No, it's shall. You shall give Congress the information about the State of the Union. They're compelling him or her to talk about it. It's something as simple as that, but it sends a message. You, the president, are no greater than anyone else in this country. You're no greater than any congressperson, any citizen. We need you, and you shall give us information. Something as simple as that, but it's such a cornerstone of what the whole intention behind the constitutional framework of Article 2 is about. We're going to set up a president, and they're going to have powers, but they're limited.